The ship moved slowly through the darkness of space. It was called the Starbound HFY, and it carried the first human team to meet the Galactic Conclave. Inside the ship, men and women in clean uniforms walked through bright hallways. They talked in quiet voices about what was coming. This was the most important day in human history. Sergeant Daniel Brooks stood near the back of the group. He was not like the others. The ambassadors wore expensive suits. The military officers wore shiny new armor with medals on their chests. Daniel wore an old exosuit that had seen better days. The metal was scratched and dented. Burn marks covered the left side. The right arm had been fixed so many times that it was now 3 different colors. Wires stuck out in places where they should not stick out. Daniel did not care how his armor looked. He knew every scratch and every dent. Each one told a story. The big dent on his chest came from a falling building on Colony 7. The burn marks came from a fire on the ice planet, where his team had saved 200 people. The different colored arm pieces came from a battle that lasted 3 days, against creatures that came from underground. Commander Kyle Harrison walked over to Daniel. He was a tall man with gray hair and a serious face. He looked at Daniel's armor and shook his head slowly. "Brooks, are you sure you do not want new armor?" the commander asked. "We have extra suits in storage. This is a big day. We want to look our best." Daniel shook his head. "This suit has kept me alive for 12 years, sir. I trust it more than any new armor. New armor has not been tested. This armor has been tested many times." The commander sighed, but said nothing more. He knew Daniel was stubborn. He also knew that Daniel was one of the best soldiers in the entire fleet. The man had fought on more worlds than most people could name. He had saved lives that no one else could save. If he wanted to wear his old armor, that was his choice. The ship entered orbit around Calraxis Prime. Through the windows, everyone could see the alien world below. It was a purple planet with silver oceans. Great cities rose from the land, buildings that touched the clouds. The aliens who lived here were called Calraxians, and they were one of the oldest species in the galaxy. Ambassador Patricia Lane gathered everyone together. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and a calm voice. She had spent 20 years preparing for this moment. "Listen carefully," she said. "The Calraxians are proud people. They value strength and honor above all things. We must show them that humanity deserves a place in the Galactic Conclave. Be polite. Be respectful. Do not start any fights." She looked at the soldiers when she said the last part. Daniel noticed, but said nothing. A shuttle took them down to the planet's surface. The landing area was huge, bigger than any stadium on Earth. Strange plants with blue leaves grew along the edges. The air smelled sweet, like flowers mixed with something electric. Daniel's suit told him the air was safe to breathe, but he kept his helmet on anyway. Old habits died hard. The Calraxian delegation was waiting for them. There were 12 of them, tall beings with 4 arms and 4 eyes. Their skin was pale blue, almost white. They wore armor that seemed to be made of liquid silver. It moved and flowed around their bodies like water. Even standing still, they looked powerful and dangerous. The leader stepped forward. He was taller than the others, and his armor was decorated with golden symbols. The translation device in Daniel's helmet told him this was High Arbiter Vethkal, one of the most important beings in the entire conclave. Vethkal looked at the humans with his 4 glowing eyes. He studied each one carefully. When his eyes reached Daniel, he stopped. For a long moment, he just stared at the broken armor. Then he made a sound, a clicking noise mixed with a high whistle. The other Calraxians made the same sound. Daniel's translator told him what it meant. They were laughing. "This is your delegation?" Vethkal asked. His voice was deep and smooth. Humanity sends ambassadors dressed in fine clothes, soldiers in polished armor, and one warrior who looks like he lost a fight with a garbage compactor. More laughter came from the Calraxians. Daniel felt anger rise in his chest, but he pushed it down. He had heard worse. Much worse than other aliens began to arrive. The Churiks came next, insect-like creatures with 6 legs and bodies covered in hard shells. They moved fast, their legs clicking against the ground. When they saw Daniel's armor, they made a buzzing sound that the translator called amusement. Then came the Morden, and Daniel had to look up to see their faces. They were huge, 9 feet tall at least, with bodies like walking tanks. Their skin was gray and thick like stone. Bones stuck out from their shoulders and arms like natural armor. The leader of the Morden, a warrior named Gronther, looked at Daniel the way a person might look at a bug. "The human wears damaged goods," Gronther said, his voice like rocks grinding together. "Perhaps his species cannot make proper armor. Perhaps they are too poor. Perhaps they are simply too weak to matter." The Morden laughed, a deep rumbling sound that Daniel felt in his bones. Ambassador Lane stepped forward quickly. "I am Patricia Lane, representative of the United Earth Government. We are honored to meet the esteemed members of the Galactic Conclave. We come in peace and friendship, hoping to join your great alliance." Vethkel nodded slowly, but his eyes kept moving back to Daniel. "Your words are pretty, Ambassador, but words are wind. We judge species by their warriors, not their speakers. And your warrior," he paused and made the laughing sound again, "your warrior looks like he should be thrown away." Patricia's face stayed calm, but Daniel could see her hands tighten. She was angry too, but she could not show it. "Sergeant Brooks is one of our finest soldiers," she said carefully. "His armor shows his experience in battle. Every mark is a fight he survived." "Survived?" Vethkel repeated. "We do not value survival alone. We value victory. We value dominance. Your soldier looks like someone who barely escaped death many times. That is not strength. That is luck, and luck runs out." The other aliens agreed. They spoke among themselves in their own languages, but their meaning was clear. They thought humans were weak. They thought Daniel was proof of that weakness. Commander Harrison put a hand on Daniel's shoulder. "Ignore them, Brooks. We are here for the treaty. Nothing else matters." Daniel nodded slowly, but he kept watching the aliens. He had seen this before. On Proxima Settlement, the colonists had laughed at his squad's old equipment. They stopped laughing when the Chariks raiders attacked, and Daniel's team was the only thing standing between them and death. On the frozen plains of Kepler 442b, corporate security had mocked his salvaged gear. They stopped mocking when the ground opened and monsters came out, and Daniel saved them all. The laughter always came before the lesson. These aliens had not learned their lesson yet, but they would. Daniel was patient. He could wait. The group moved toward the great hall where the conclave meetings would take place. The building was enormous, made of white stone that seemed to glow from inside. Statues of alien warriors lined the path, heroes from 100 different worlds. Daniel looked at each one as he passed. They all had one thing in common. Their armor was perfect, without a single scratch or dent. Daniel looked down at his own battered suit. He thought about all the battles it had seen, all the blood it had stopped, all the lives it had helped save. These aliens saw weakness when they looked at him. They could not understand that his armor told a different story. It was a story of survival, a story of never giving up, a story of being human. And soon, they would all learn what that really meant. 3 days passed on Kilraxis Prime. 3 days of meetings and arguments and long speeches that went nowhere. The humans sat on one side of the great hall. The aliens sat on the other side. In between them was a table made of crystal, and on that table sat a document that no one wanted to sign. Daniel stood guard near the back of the room. His job was simple: watch for danger, protect the ambassador, stay quiet. He was good at all three things, but standing still for hours was hard. His legs hurt. His back hurt. His old armor made small clicking sounds when he moved, and every time it did, some alien would look at him and make that laughing noise. He did not let it bother him. Much thought, Ambassador. Patricia Lane was talking again. She had been talking for most of the 3 days. Her voice was tired now, but she kept going. Daniel respected that. She was fighting her own kind of battle, and she was not giving up. Humanity offers technology, Patricia said. We offer resources from our colony worlds. We offer soldiers who can fight alongside your armies. We offer friendship and loyalty. All we ask is a seat at the table, a chance to prove ourselves. High Arbiter Vethkal listened with his 4 eyes half closed. He looked bored. The other Calraxians around him looked bored too. They had heard this speech before, or something like it. Pretty words again, Vethkal said when Patricia finished. But the Conclave does not accept species based on words. We accept species based on worth. And humanity has not yet shown its worth. The Churik's representative clicked in agreement. Her name was Slixvara, and she was covered in bright green shells that caught the light. The humans are too new, too untested. They have been in space for only 200 years. We have been in space for 10,000. What can they offer that we do not already have? Patricia opened her mouth to answer, but the Morden war chief spoke first. Grunther stood up from his seat, and the whole room seemed smaller. He was like a mountain that had learned to walk. I will tell you what they cannot offer, Grunther said. His voice was so deep that Daniel felt it in his chest. They cannot offer strength. They cannot offer power. They are small and soft and break easily. I have seen their soldiers. He pointed one massive finger at Daniel. I have seen their best warrior. He wears armor that falls apart. He would not last 1 minute against a real fighter. The aliens laughed again. Daniel felt his hands turn into fists, but he kept them at his sides. Stay quiet. That was his job. Patricia tried to speak again, but Grunther was not finished. I say we reject the humans, the war chief continued. They are a waste of time, a waste of resources. If we let them into the Conclave, we will have to protect them like children. I did not become war chief to babysit weak species. The Morden delegation pounded their fists on the table in agreement. The sound was like thunder. Vethkal raised one of his 4 hands. The room went quiet. The war chief makes a strong point. Perhaps humanity is not ready. Perhaps they need more time to grow before they can stand with us. Patricia's face went pale. Daniel could see she was losing. Everything humanity had worked for was slipping away. There is another option, Vethkal said slowly. A strange smile crossed his face. An old option. One that has been used many times in Conclave history. Grunther's eyes lit up with interest. The arena of truth? Yes, Vethkal said. The arena of truth. Let the humans prove themselves in combat. One champion from their species against champions from ours. If their warrior can stand against even one of our fighters, we will reconsider their application. The Churik's representative buzzed with excitement. I support this motion. Let the humans show us what hides beneath their fragile shells. Let them bleed for their place among us. The other delegations agreed quickly. They wanted to see this. They wanted to watch humanity fail in the most public way possible. Patricia looked at Commander Harrison. The commander looked at his officers. No one wanted to volunteer. The Morden were giants who could crush a human with one hand. The Churiks were faster than anything Daniel had ever seen. The Calraxians had powers of the mind that could break a person without touching them. We need time to discuss this, Patricia said. Perhaps we could, I will do it. The words came from the back of the room. Everyone turned to look at Daniel. He had not meant to speak. The words had just come out. But now that they were out, he did not take them back. Commander Harrison walked over to him quickly. Brooks, think about what you were saying. This is not a colony fight. These are warriors who have trained their whole lives for combat. They are stronger, faster, and more dangerous than anything you have faced. Daniel looked at the commander with steady eyes. Sir, I have been fighting things that wanted to kill me since I was 19 years old. I have fought on frozen worlds and burning worlds. I have fought creatures with claws and creatures with poison and creatures that could not be seen. My armor is broken because it has stood between me and death more times than I can count. He looked across the room at the alien delegations. They were watching him with interest now instead of boredom. Let them laugh, Daniel said. I have heard laughter before. It always stops eventually. Patricia studied his face for a long moment. She was looking for fear, for doubt, for any sign that he did not mean what he said. She found nothing but calm certainty. Very well, she said finally. Sergeant Daniel Brooks will represent humanity in the arena of truth. Vethkal made that clicking laugh again. A brave choice, Ambassador. Or perhaps a foolish one. We shall see tomorrow. The meeting ended soon after. The aliens left first, still making their laughing sounds. The humans stayed behind to talk. Commander Harrison pulled Daniel aside. Are you sure about this, Brooks? This could kill you. There is no shame in backing out. Daniel shook his head. I have never backed out of a fight in my life, sir. I am not going to start now. That night, Daniel went to the small room they had given him. It was nice, much nicer than the places he usually slept. The bed was soft. The walls glowed with gentle light. Through the window, he could see the alien city spread out below, millions of lights shining like stars on the ground. He sat on the bed and looked at his armor. The old suit stood in the corner like a friend waiting for him. He knew every piece of it. He knew which parts were original and which parts had been replaced. He knew which joints stuck and which ones moved smooth. He knew exactly how much damage it could take before it failed. Tomorrow, he would find out if that was enough. He thought about his life. He thought about all the battles he had fought and all the people he had saved. He thought about the colonists on Proxima and the miners on Kepler and the families on a dozen other worlds who were alive because he had been there when danger came. None of those people had thought he was weak. They had not cared about his broken armor. They had only cared that he stood between them and death. The aliens would learn the same lesson tomorrow. They would learn that humans did not fight because they were strong. They fought because they refused to give up. They fought because they had to. They fought because that was what humans did. Daniel lay down on the soft bed and closed his eyes. Tomorrow would be a hard day. But he had faced hard days before. And he was still here. He was still standing. That was what mattered. The arena of truth was not like anything Daniel had ever seen. It was a huge circle of white stone that floated in the air above an endless black void. There were no walls, no ceiling, just the platform and the darkness below. One wrong step would mean falling forever. Giant crystals floated around the arena, giving off bright white light. Thousands of aliens filled the seats that rose up on all sides like a mountain made of chairs. Every species in the conclave was there. They had come to watch humanity fail. Daniel stood at one edge of the platform. His armor hummed quietly as the power cells warmed up. He had checked everything 3 times that morning. Every wire, every plate, every system. His suit was old and broken in many places, but it would work. It had to work. Across the arena, 3 champions waited for him. The first was Slixith, a Churix blade dancer. She was smaller than Daniel expected, about his size, but her body was covered in hard green shell, and her arms ended in blades that looked sharp enough to cut through metal. She moved constantly, shifting from leg to leg, ready to attack at any moment. The second was Miravan, a Calraxian psychic warrior. She was tall and thin, with 4 eyes that glowed bright purple. She did not carry any weapons. She did not need them. Her mind was her weapon, and Daniel knew that fighting her would be like fighting a ghost. The third was Gronther himself. The Morden war chief had chosen to enter the arena personally. He wanted to be the one who crushed the human. His body was like a wall of gray stone and bone. His arms were thick as tree trunks. When he smiled, Daniel could see teeth like knives. That announcer's voice echoed through the arena. The human champion may choose the order of challenges. One opponent at a time or any combination he wishes. Daniel looked at the 3 alien warriors. They looked back at him with eyes full of contempt. They expected an easy victory. They expected him to choose the smallest one first, to try to survive as long as possible before falling. Daniel was tired of doing what people expected. "All 3, he said, his voice loud and clear through his helmet speakers. At once, the arena went silent. Then the laughter started, louder than ever before. It came from everywhere. Thousands of aliens making their clicking and buzzing and rumbling sounds. The idea of one human fighting 3 champions at the same time was the funniest thing they had ever heard. In the human section, Commander Harrison grabbed the rail in front of him. "He has lost his mind." Ambassador Patricia Lane watched with a face that showed nothing, but her hands were tight in her lap. Perhaps, or perhaps he knows something we do not. Down in the arena, the 3 alien champions spread out to surround Daniel. Slixith moved to his left, her bladed arms raised and ready. Miravan floated to his right, her eyes glowing brighter as she prepared her mental attack. Gronther stayed in front, cracking his massive knuckles with a sound like breaking rocks. "Foolish human," Gronther said. "I will make your death quick. That is the only mercy you will receive." Daniel did not answer. He was already thinking, already planning. He could not beat these 3 with strength. He could not beat them with speed. He could not beat them with power. But he had something they did not have. He had spent his whole life being the weaker one. He had learned to fight differently. The announcer called for the battle to begin. Slixith attacked first. She was so fast that she seemed to disappear and reappear right in front of Daniel. Her bladed arms cut through the air where his head had been half a second before. But Daniel was not there anymore. He had been watching her legs, waiting for the tiny shift in weight that meant she was about to move. He had ducked just in time. At the same moment, Miravan struck with her mind. Daniel felt a pressure inside his skull, like someone was trying to squeeze his brain. Pain shot through his head. His vision went blurry, but Daniel had prepared for this. On a mining station far away, years ago, he had fought a roguish eye that attacked through electronic signals. He had learned to modify his suit's power core to release a feedback pulse that disrupted mental connections. He triggered it now. The pulse was invisible, but Miravan screamed and fell back. The pressure in Daniel's head disappeared. She clutched her head with all 4 hands, her concentration broken. Gronther charged like a runaway train. The ground shook under his feet. His fist swung toward Daniel with enough force to punch through a wall. Daniel did not try to block. That would be suicide. Instead, he moved toward Gronther, not away. He slid between the giant's legs, using his smaller size to his advantage. As he passed beneath the war chief, he reached up and planted a small device on Gronther's leg. The device was something Daniel had made himself, using parts from 3 different worlds. It released an electrical charge that made muscles freeze for a few seconds. Gronther roared in surprise as his leg stopped working. He stumbled forward, trying to catch his balance, right into Slicksith. The Churik's blade dancer was coming around for another attack. She could not stop in time. She crashed into Gronther, her blade scratching against his stone-like skin. They both went down in a tangle of limbs. Daniel did not wait. He turned and ran toward Miravan, who was still recovering from the feedback pulse. She saw him coming and raised her hands, trying to rebuild her mental attack. But her concentration was scattered. The best she could manage was a weak push that Daniel walked through like it was a light wind. He reached her and grabbed one of her arms. His suit had been modified many times over the years. One modification was a neural disruptor in his palm, a small device that sent signals to the brain that caused confusion and sleep. He pressed it against Miravan's skin. She collapsed to the ground, unconscious. The crowd went quiet. No one was laughing now. Daniel turned to face the other two. Slicksith had untangled herself from Gronther and was circling around, looking for an opening. The war chief was back on his feet, his frozen leg working again. Both of them looked at Daniel differently now. The contempt was gone. In its place was something that might have been respect. Or maybe just anger. "Lucky tricks," Gronther growled. "They will not work twice." "Then I will use different tricks," Daniel said. They came at him together this time. Slicksith from the left, Gronther from the right. Daniel's mind worked faster than it had ever worked before. He could see the patterns in their movements. He could see where they were going to be before they got there. Slicksith reached him first. Her blades moved in a blur, cutting and slashing. Daniel dodged most of them, but one caught his shoulder and cut through his armor. Blood started to flow down his arm. He ignored it. He had been hurt worse. He caught her next strike between his hands, stopping the blade an inch from his neck. She pushed harder, trying to finish the cut. Daniel held on. His arms shook from the effort. He was not as strong as her, but he did not have to be strong. He just had to hold on long enough. Gronther's punch came from behind. Daniel felt it coming. At the last possible moment, he let go of Slicksith and dropped to the ground. The war chief's fist hit empty air, then hit Slicksith square in the chest. The Churiks flew backward and landed hard on the stone floor. Her shells were cracked. She tried to get up, but her legs would not work properly. Now it was just Daniel and Gronther. The war chief looked at his fallen allies. Then he looked at the small human standing in front of him. His eyes were narrow with rage. "You fight without honor," Gronther said. "You use tricks and devices. You make us fight each other instead of facing us directly." Daniel's armor was sparking now. His shoulder was bleeding. He was tired, more tired than he had ever been. But he was still standing. "I fight to win," Daniel said. "I fight to survive. I fight the way humans have always fought, against bigger enemies, stronger enemies, faster enemies. We do not fight fair because fair gets us killed. We fight smart." Gronther roared and charged one more time. This time, Daniel did not run or dodge. He stood his ground. His suit calculated the angle of attack, the speed, the force. At exactly the right moment, Daniel moved, not away from Gronther. Into him, he hit the war chief at the knee joint, the one weak point in his stone-like body. Daniel's shoulder slammed into the joint with every bit of force his suit could provide. Something cracked. Gronther fell to one knee, roaring in pain. Daniel climbed up his body like climbing a mountain. He reached the war chief's head and pressed both palms against his temples. The neural disruptors in his hands activated at full power. Gronther's eyes rolled back. He swayed once, twice, then collapsed to the ground with a crash that shook the entire arena. Daniel stood on top of the fallen giant. His armor was smoking. His body was bleeding from a dozen small wounds. But he was standing. He had won. The vote came 3 hours after the battle in the arena. Daniel sat in a medical room on the Starboard Hope while doctors worked on his wounds. His shoulder needed 20 stitches. His ribs were bruised. His muscles were torn in 6 different places. The doctors said he should not have been able to stand at the end of the fight, let alone walk and give speeches. Daniel just smiled and let them work. He had been hurt worse before Commander Harrison came to see him first. The older man stood in the doorway of the medical room with a strange look on his face. It took Daniel a moment to recognize it as respect. The Morden voted to accept humanity into the conclave, Harrison said. They were the first. Grunther himself spoke in our favor. He said things about you that I still cannot quite believe. Daniel nodded slowly, moving his head hurt. The Churiks voted next. Then the Kelraxians. Then every other species in the conclave, one by one. It was unanimous in the end. Humanity is now a full member of the Galactic Conclave. That is good news, sir. Harrison walked closer and sat down in a chair next to Daniel's bed. Good news? Brooks, do you understand what you did today? You changed the course of human history. 100 years from now, children will learn about this day in school. They will learn about you. Daniel looked down at his hands. They were wrapped in bandages, but he could still see the scars underneath. Old scars from old fights that most people had already forgotten. I did not do it for history, Daniel said. I did it because someone had to. If I did not volunteer, maybe someone else would have. Someone younger, with better armor and more training. But maybe they would have lost. Maybe they would have died. I could not take that chance. Harrison was quiet for a moment. Then he reached out and put a hand on Daniel's good shoulder. You are a good man, Brooks. A good soldier. Humanity is lucky to have you. Ambassador Patricia Lane came next. She brought papers for Daniel to sign, official documents that recognized his service to Earth and its colonies. There was talk of medals and ceremonies and statues in his honor. Daniel signed the papers without reading them. He did not care about medals or statues. He had never done any of his work for recognition. The Conclave wants you to stay, Patricia said. They want you to be humanity's permanent military representative. You would have your own staff, your own quarters, access to technology we have only dreamed about. It is a great honor. Daniel thought about it for a long moment. He thought about the grand halls and the important meetings and the life of comfort that waited for him. If he said yes, then he thought about the frontier colonies, the small settlements on distant worlds where people were still struggling to survive, the places where danger came without warning and help was always too far away. No, he said. Patricia blinked in surprise. No, Daniel, this is the opportunity of a lifetime. You could be one of the most important people in the galaxy. I am not important, Daniel said. I am just a soldier. And soldiers belong on the front lines, not in fancy meeting rooms. There are still people out there who need help. People who do not have strong walls or advanced weapons or alien allies. Those are my people. That is where I belong. Patricia looked sad but not surprised. She had read his file. She knew who he was. Very well, she said. But know that the offer stands. If you ever change your mind, there will always be a place for you here. Grunther came to see him before the Morden delegation left. Kelraxis Prime, the war chief, had to bend almost in half to fit through the door of the medical room. Once inside, he stood with his head touching the ceiling, looking down at the small human in the bed. I have a gift for you, Grunther said. He held out his massive hand. In his palm was a small piece of gray stone, smooth and polished. This is a piece of my own armor. In Morden culture, we give such things to warriors who have earned our respect. It is the highest honor I can offer. Daniel took the stone carefully. It was warm to the touch and heavier than it looked. "Thank you," he said. "I will keep it with me always." Grunther nodded slowly. "I have thought about our fight many times since it ended. I keep asking myself how you did it. How a small human in broken armor defeated 3 champions of the Conclave." Daniel smiled slightly. "Do you want to know the truth?" "Yes, I was scared," Daniel said. "More scared than I have ever been in my life. My hands were shaking. My heart was pounding. Every part of me wanted to run away and hide." Grunther frowned. "But you did not run. You fought and won." "That is what being human is about," Daniel said. "We feel the fear. We know we might lose. We know we might die. But we fight anyway because some things are more important than fear. Some things are worth dying for." The war chief was silent for a long moment. Then he lowered his head in a bow that Daniel had never seen from a Morden before. "If your species breeds more warriors like you," Grunther said, "the galaxy should count itself fortunate that you came in peace." 2 weeks later, Daniel was on a shuttle heading back to the frontier. His wounds were healed enough for travel. His armor was repaired, mostly, though he had kept some of the new dents from the arena fight. They were part of his history now. A young Marine named Chris Parker sat across from him. Chris was 20 years old, fresh out of training, heading to his first assignment on a colony world. He had heard stories about Daniel and the fight on Calraxis Prime. Everyone had heard the stories by now. "Sir," Chris said nervously, "can I ask you a question?" Daniel nodded. Double quotes. "Why did you not stay?" "On Calraxis Prime, I mean. You could have had everything. Money, power, respect. Why come back to the frontier where nobody knows your name and nobody cares what you did?" Daniel looked out the window at the stars streaming past. Each one of those lights was a sun. Around many of those suns were planets. On some of those planets were people trying to build lives, raise families, create something new. Those people needed protecting. "Out here, somewhere right now," Daniel said, "someone is looking at someone else in broken armor and laughing. They are thinking that person is weak. They are thinking that person does not matter. They are wrong." He turned to look at the young Marine. "I go where I am needed. That is what soldiers do. And out here on the frontier, far from the grand halls and important meetings, that is where I am needed most." Chris was quiet for a moment. Then he asked, "Do you ever get tired of it?" "Fighting, I mean. Always being the one who has to stand between danger and the people who cannot protect themselves." Daniel thought about the question carefully before answering. "Yes," he said honestly. "Sometimes I get very tired. Sometimes I wonder what it would be like to stop fighting and just rest. But then I think about all the people I have helped over the years. All the colonists and miners and families who are alive because someone was willing to fight for them." He looked down at the piece of gray stone in his hand, the gift from Grunther. "That is what makes it worth it. Not the medals or the glory or the stories they tell. Just knowing that because I stood up, someone else got to live." The shuttle carried them deeper into space, away from the center of galactic civilization and toward the edge where humanity was still growing. Behind them, on 100 different worlds, aliens told stories about the human in broken armor who stood against 3 champions and won. But Daniel did not think about stories or legends. He thought about the next fight, the next danger, the next person who would need his help. Somewhere out there, someone was laughing at someone else who seemed weak. And soon, very soon, they would learn the same lesson that the Galactic Conclave had learned. Never laugh at a human in broken armor. They might just be the strongest thing you ever face. The arena was completely silent. Not a sound came from the thousands of aliens in the seats above. They stared down at the platform where one human stood over 3 fallen champions. No one was laughing anymore. Daniel climbed down from Grunther's body slowly. Every part of him hurt. His shoulder was still bleeding through the cut in his armor. His legs felt weak. His head was pounding from Miravan's psychic attack. But he forced himself to stand straight. He forced himself to look strong. High Arbiter Vethkal descended from his seat. His silver robes flowed behind him as he walked across the air itself, stepping on invisible platforms that only he could see. When he reached the arena floor, he stood before Daniel and looked at him with all four of his glowing eyes. "You have won the arena of truth," Vethkal said. His voice was different now. The mockery was gone. "By our ancient laws, a victor may demand any truth from the defeated. Ask your question, human. My champions must answer honestly." Daniel looked at the three fallen warriors. Slixith was sitting up now, her cracked shells already beginning to heal. Miravan was awake but weak, holding her head with two hands. Grunther was slowly pushing himself up from the ground, his massive body moving like a mountain coming to life. Daniel could ask them anything. He could make them tell secrets about their species. He could make them admit that they were wrong about humans. He could use this moment to gain power or information or advantage, but that was not why he had fought. "I do not want a truth from them," Daniel said. His voice was tired but strong. "I want to give you one." Vethkal's four eyes narrowed with surprise. "That is not how the ritual works, human." "Then change the ritual," Daniel said. "You wanted to see what humans are made of. Let me show you." The High Arbiter was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. "Speak then. The Conclave will listen." Daniel turned to face the stands. Thousands of aliens looked down at him. Species from 100 different worlds, beings who had traveled the stars when humans were still living in caves. They had power and technology and strength that humanity could barely imagine, and they had all just watched him beat their champions while wearing broken armor. Daniel reached up with both hands. His fingers found the seals on his helmet. For 12 years, he had worn this armor. It had become part of him, a second skin that he never removed in front of others. But today was different. Today, they needed to see his face. He released the seals. The helmet opened with a soft hiss. He pulled it off and let it fall to the ground. The face beneath was nothing special. Just a human face, older than it should be, marked by years of hard living. Brown eyes that had seen too much death. Skin weathered by radiation and cold and heat from a dozen different worlds. The scar ran along his jaw, a reminder of a fight he had almost lost. His hair was short and dark, with gray at the edges. There were no cybernetic implants, no genetic modifications, no special powers or alien technology hidden in his body. Just flesh and blood and bone. Just a man. "You looked at my armor and saw weakness," Daniel said. His voice carried across the silent arena. "Where I come from, we call it history. Every dent is a fight I survived. Every scratch is a lesson I learned. Every patch is a problem I solved when no one else could help me." He pointed at the fallen champions. "Your warriors are amazing. They are strong and fast and powerful beyond anything I have faced before. But they have never had to be creative. They have never had to be desperate. They have never been the small one, the weak one, the one that everyone expects to lose." Daniel started walking slowly across the arena. Medical teams were coming now, helping Slixith and Miravan and Grunther. But all eyes remained on the human. Humanity is a young species. We know that. We have been in space for only a few hundred years, while you have been here for thousands. We do not have your technology or your resources or your history. We are small and fragile and easy to break. He stopped walking and turned to face Vethkal directly. But we do not break. We bend. We adapt. We find ways to win that no one expects. That is what humans do. That is what we have always done, since we were living in caves and fighting animals with rocks and sticks. The arena remained silent. Daniel took a deep breath and continued. We are not asking to join your conclave because we think we are better than you. We are asking because the galaxy is vast and dangerous. There are threats out there that none of us have seen yet. Enemies that have not shown themselves. Problems that no single species can solve alone. He looked around at all the different aliens in the stands. My armor is broken because I've spent my whole life protecting people who could not protect themselves. Colonists on frontier worlds. Miners on frozen moons. Families who just wanted to live in peace. I stood between them and death, and I kept standing until the danger passed. Daniel walked over to where Gronther was sitting. The giant war chief looked up at him with eyes that held no more contempt. Daniel extended his hand. That is what humans do, Daniel said. That is what we will keep doing, with or without your approval. We will fight. We will protect. We will survive. And we will never, ever give up. Gronther looked at the small human hand in front of him. For a long moment, he did not move. Then, slowly, he reached out and took it. Daniel pulled with all his strength, helping the war chief rise to his feet. You fought well, human, Gronther said. His voice was quiet, respectful. I have faced 1,000 warriors in my lifetime. None have taught me more than you did today. Daniel nodded. You are a great warrior. I was lucky as much as skilled. Another day, the result might be different. Gronther shook his massive head. No, luck did not beat me. Thinking did. Planning did. Heart did. Those are not luck. Those are strength of a different kind. The war chief turned to face the stands. His voice rose to fill the entire arena. I change my vote, Gronther announced. I say humanity deserves a place in the conclave. Any species that can produce a warrior like this one is a species worth knowing. A murmur ran through the crowd. The Morton delegation looked shocked. Their leader had never changed a vote in his entire life. Slicksith stood up slowly, her cracked shells clicking as she moved. She bowed her head toward Daniel in the Churich sign of respect. I also changed my vote, she said. The human showed me things about combat that I never knew. He fought without fear, without hesitation. He is worthy. Merivin was last. She walked up to Daniel on unsteady legs. Her 4 eyes studied his face for a long moment, looking deeper than normal eyes could see. I tried to break your mind, she said softly. I tried to crush you from inside. Do you know what I found? Daniel shook his head. I found a wall, Merivin said. Not a wall made of strength or power. A wall made of memories. Every person you ever saved. Every battle you ever fought. Every moment of pain and fear that you survived. You built that wall piece by piece over your whole life. And when I pushed against it, it did not crack. It did not shake. It stood firm. She reached out with one hand and touched his face gently. I have never seen a mind like yours, human. I thought your species was weak. I was wrong. The Kelraxian turned to Vethkal. I changed my vote as well. Humanity should join the conclave. Vethkal stood in silence for a long moment. His 4 eyes moved from Daniel to the fallen champions to the watching crowd. The entire arena waited for his response. Finally, the High Arbiter spoke. It seems I owe you an apology, Sergeant Brooks. We looked at your armor and saw damage. We should have looked deeper and seen strength. He lowered his head in a bow. On behalf of the Kelraxians, I apologize for our mockery. It was unworthy of us. Daniel was tired. His whole body hurt. He wanted to sit down, to close his eyes, to rest. But he stayed standing. He had one more thing to say. I do not need an apology, he said. I need you to remember this day. Not because I won, but because of why I won. Humans are small and weak and fragile. We know this. We have always known this. But we have also always found ways to survive, to adapt, to overcome. He looked around the arena one last time. When the next great enemy comes, when the next great danger threatens the galaxy, remember the human in broken armor who stood against 3 of your greatest champions. Remember that we do not fight because we are strong. We fight because we refuse to fall. The arena was silent for one more heartbeat. Then the applause began.